The ego doesn't wait for change to happen, it senses it. Long before you take the first step, it feels the shift. It feels your energy moving in a new direction. And it begins to panic. That panic might come as anxiety, doubt, or a sudden wave of heaviness with no clear reason. You weren't planning anything radical, not yet. But something inside you is starting to wake up. The ego sees this as a threat. Its job is to maintain the known, the predictable, the familiar. So when your vibration begins to rise, when you start to align with your higher self, the ego fights to pull you back. Not because it's evil, but because it believes its survival depends on keeping you exactly where you are. The ego doesn't understand frequency. It doesn't speak the language of alignment or expansion. What it does understand is control. And when it feels that control slipping, it reacts. That reaction is what we often mistake for fear. But it's not fear of what is, it's fear of what might be. The unknown. The unpredictable. The ego thrives in certainty, even if that certainty is limiting. So the moment you start vibrating differently, thinking differently, desiring more, choosing yourself, the ego sounds the alarm. Like when you consider quitting the job that drains you, or finally saying no to what no longer feels aligned. And suddenly, your mind floods with reasons to wait, to stay, to shrink. It brings up every story, every wound, every excuse to stop. It tries to convince you that comfort is safety, and expansion is danger. But what you're feeling isn't danger. It's movement. And movement always shakes what was never meant to last. The unknown is where the ego loses all footing. It has no reference points there, no labels, no control. That's why it resists. Not because the unknown is dangerous, but because the ego can't define it. But your higher self doesn't need definitions. It doesn't fear the blank page, it writes on it. Every time you step into the unknown, you're entering a portal, not to something outside of you, but to a version of you that already exists, on a higher frequency. And that's what terrifies the ego the most. Not the unknown itself, but who you might become once you pass through it. What you often call fear might simply be excitement, filtered through a belief that says you're not ready. The ego doesn't recognize the energy of expansion. So when it feels a surge of possibility, it labels it as danger. Your heart races. Your breath shortens. Your mind starts spinning with what ifs. But pause and feel. Is it really fear? Or is it energy, rising, moving, accelerating? Because something in you knows. You're getting close to a breakthrough? Bashar, a multidimensional being from the civilization of Essassani, channeled by Darryl Anka for over 40 years, calls this excitement with a negative definition. It's your soul saying yes, and your ego trying to turn that yes into a no. When you start to shift, you don't just change your actions. You disrupt an entire identity the ego spent years building. It starts to feel like things are falling apart. But they're not falling apart. They're falling away. Old roles, old labels, old beliefs that once made you feel safe, now feel too small to contain you. You used to call yourself a people pleaser, a perfectionist, a survivor. But now, those titles feel more like chains than truths. The ego will fight for them. It will remind you of who you were, of the version of yourself it believes is real, even if that version was full of self-doubt and limitation. Because for the ego, familiarity equals survival. And anything beyond that feels like death. But it's not death. It's rebirth. There comes a point where the noise of the ego meets the quiet knowing of your inner being. The fear, the doubt, the tension, all rise to the surface. It feels like a wall, but it's actually a door. This is the moment of choice. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just a quiet pull from within asking, will you stay where it's familiar? Or move toward what feels true? The ego will offer every reason to turn back. It will promise safety, comfort, control. But your essence doesn't want control. It wants freedom. And freedom begins the moment you stop letting fear decide who you are. Each time the ego panics, you're being shown where your boundaries are ready to expand. It's not a warning sign. It's a signal that you're shifting timelines, stepping into the unknown, and becoming more of who you truly are. You don't need to silence the ego. You just need to stop letting it lead. Observe it, breathe through it, and keep walking. Because every step forward, even the trembling ones, bring you closer to the frequency your soul has been calling home all along. If this message resonated with you, please like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And if you're ready to go deeper, join me in the next video. We're just getting started.